Genius Branding. Welcome to my Facebook Live Thursday. That was my dog that was sitting in my lap. Welcome everybody. I'm glad you're here. It's been a couple weeks since I've done my Facebook Live, but that's kind of been in parts because I've been so busy helping people like you. So thank you for your patience, and I'm excited to be back here with you guys. So today, based on some things I've been hearing from some of you out there, I wanted to talk to you guys about what exactly it means, and the dogs start barking right now, what exactly it means to brand yourself or brand your image, and why is this important? I mean, so many of you come to me and saying, well, I have this great product or service, shouldn't that be enough? Just to let simply people know that I'm doing it, and shouldn't that just bring people so they'll flock to me? I mean, after all, isn't the universe supposed to be aligned if I found my purpose? Yes and no. So sometimes people really genuinely do get lucky. They hit on something new, or they were in the right place at the right time, and things just take off for them. But for most of us, and that includes me too, it does take some effort to get noticed, and you have to make sure that you're putting out a message, and that's where branding comes in. And so branding is, not what everybody thinks it is. I mean, some of you are like, oh, branding, it means I've got to go sell, or I got to go push myself on people. I don't want to be annoying, it's so uncomfortable, right? We've talked about some of the things that get in the way of selling. So what exactly is branding? So I've heard things like it's simply having a recognizable website and a logo, or while that part is true, you want people to recognize. So I'm getting notes from friends going, are you live? I sure hope I'm live. Yes, I'm here. Hopefully you can see me. So I know that it's Facebook's taking its time. So anyway, so I've heard things that, is that all I need is just a logo and a website and I'm good to go? Well, not really. So one of the ways I like to describe branding is it's the pull, not the push. So the thing that most of you guys are totally afraid of is pushing yourselves on somebody. How do I know that they want me in the first place? Well, that's where branding comes in. You want to pull people in. You want to make sure they're part of your tribe and that they're coming along for the ride, so that you're not really invading someone's space, but you're actually providing people with something of value. So branding's the pull. And it's about having a uniform message. You want to make sure that everything you put out there is really in alignment with where you're going, who you're serving, and what you're doing. And that who you're serving, so if anybody's worked with me, they get so sick of hearing me say this, but the key thing is know your audience. And that's the first step, and we're going to get into some steps you can take to really create a better message. But the one thing is it always starts with knowing your audience. Who is it that you're going to serve? And I really want you to get clear on that, and I want you to check in with yourself from time to time and go, is this still the same audience? Do I want to serve the same people that I did originally? And sometimes it evolves, and that's really okay. I'm working with a client right now where we went with, she's a coach, and she went with, hi Linda, I can see Linda's joined. I know Sherry just shared my video. Thanks, Sherry. I'm so excited. So I'm working with a client who's a life coach, and she was serving people who have autoimmune issues, or she was serving with people who have, yes, here I am, Linda, serving people who have identity issues. And what really happened was she evolved into something else. She realized that all those people have in common being estranged from somebody else. And that was really key for her, and it's who her message is now. And she's coming up with this great plan, and her message is so much clearer. So know who it is that you want to serve, because what happens is then everything else starts to fall in line. And we'll talk about that more in your steps. So branding, as I said, is also more than a website. I want you to start to think of your website as your home. This is a place you're inviting people in where you get to talk about what you do, who you are, and really give them something of value. Because that's, hi Sherry, because there's things that you want to make sure you're giving people. And so think of your website as your home, and it's just a start. Next, I also want you to think about your brand as having a plan of action. It's really about just taking the steps, knowing where you're going, making sure that you're delivering consistent material, whether that's, posts on Mondays and that are just helpful tips, or a picture or a quote on Wednesdays. I mean, little simple things, that's all part of your brand. And you want to make sure that you're always talking to your audience, not at your audience, but talking to them and saying, hey, I hear you, you're here, and really keeping that message consistent. So I also want you to think of your brand and is a coming together of the solution you offer your ideal client. And that's really why it's so important to create that client avatar, is know what their problems are, know what they think, know what keeps them up at night. Really go through all of those. So know the solution you provide your ideal client. Know your mission. Hey, what's my mission? And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a few moments. But what am I here to do? So that people who are coming to see you know exactly what it is that you want to do in this world. If you've got something big, let them know. You also want to know your core values. And why is this important? So your core values are really great because those are the things that you're offering people. Even if you've got just a product, what are the core values of your product? I mean, you think of the things that you buy. You know exactly what the company values. And so we often skip that part because we think, well, people should know. What is it that I value? For me, those are the things that really come across. And I'll talk more about my own personal values in a bit. But those are really important to get a hold of. You also want to add your personality. People forget, oh my God, I can be real. It's my company. Should I be stiff? Should I be... You could be real. Be yourself. I mean, it's not about always being perfect and pretty, but it's about adding some humor or humility even. Coming on to these Facebook Live posts can, you just come on as yourself. Those are great ways to introduce yourself to the people that you want to serve. So I always want you to remember, and a lot of people forget that, the brand includes you. And a lot of branding coaches won't talk about that or work with people on that. But one of the things that's so important is, how do we get that out? What is it that you want to share? Are you funny? Are you sincere? You have the biggest heart? What is it, especially with soul-based entrepreneurs, what is it that you share? And the last thing is having clearly defined offerings. That is part of your brand. What are you giving people? So many times we think we know what it is, but we're not really that clear. So when you have all these things put together, it's sort of like this little branding soup, and it comes out with a message of saying, hey, my brand is part me, part my product, part of my offerings, part my home. So those are the things that branding really is. And so I think it really scares people, and they don't want to invest in it because they're like, well, isn't it just about pushing things? And it really isn't. It's about getting clear on you and your product and what you have to offer so that people can really find you. Because again, I work with people who change lives. And so we want to make sure you get out there. So branding is about having people find you, as I said, and not necessarily the other way around. Okay, so I have 5 steps that I say that, can help people. And of course, I have my little cheat sheets here, and 2 of them didn't print, which is totally typical of my day. And I'm going to pull up my computer so that we can look at some of these. But I have 5 tips that I want to give you, and I want to make sure that we remember them all, that can help you get your branding started. So, I want you to remember that your brand is your platform. It includes your website. And for some people that can be super simple. I was talking to somebody the other day, they're like, do I need that in depth? It really just depends on who you are and what you're offering. Maybe it's just a platform for videos that you share. Maybe it's, you just want to share an offering that you've got. What your home looks like is totally going to vary. There is no one formula. It's your social media platform, so it's getting out there on places like Facebook, on LinkedIn, especially LinkedIn. I just saw a heart from my LinkedIn expert that I love referring things to. Again, if you need one, I have a great person who can teach you about that. But it's about getting on all those platforms. It's about having a clear logo. And next week I'm excited because I'm going to talk to you about some tools how to get logos, how to get some of those things for cheaper, because I'm all about saving money and not having to spend a ton to really create a magnificent message. I'm going to teach you about some of the pitfalls that exist out there, some that I've been through, some that my clients have been through. So I'm going to teach you some of that. And so it's your home, your website, your social media platform, it's your logos, and it's really part of an understandable message. So, hi Michelle, oh, so good to see you. Thank you for joining. So here's what I wanted to offer is a little help today in getting started and getting super clear on what your brand is. So I want to give you 5 simple steps, and these are all pretty easy, but they're important to get going. And they're steps that we sometimes skip, so I really don't want you to skip them. They're tedious sometimes, but super important to really clarify for yourself, what is it that I want to do and who do I want to serve? So let's start there. For anyone out there who's worked with me, they're probably so sick of hearing me say this, but please, please, please know your audience. I really drive my clients nuts with this, and I'm always asking, well, does that serve your ideal client? And I ask this question because I'm really all about staying on message. And if you know who you're going to serve, then you can stay on message so much clearer. You know, create a picture of them. Make sure that you have that picture with you. Whenever you're doing anything for your business, keep a picture nearby of who you want to serve. I have a Meet Your Ideal Client downloadable worksheet. You can get it on my website. You can actually get it on my Facebook page by clicking on my cover photo and download this for free. It will walk you through step by step, really thinking about what your ideal client needs. And that's the key is you want to focus on what keeps them up at night and how do you provide the solution, whether it's a product or service. What tangible changes are you going to make in their life? So you really want to spend a lot of time. And it's okay, you know, here's what happens is if you don't have that clear, you know, I've had clients who will one day write something about, hey, this is what you need to do to break through and really start looking for that career. And then the next day they talk about, this is how I overcame my divorce. And I think if you use these tools, you can overcome your issues too. Now, I'm not saying you can't serve both of those people, but if you're not really doing it in a clear way and targeting them, you know, where they live, you're going to come across as having the most crazy message, and people are going to be like, well, I don't really know what she does. And so you want to get clear. And again, you could do the Meet Your Ideal Client worksheet for multiple clients, and then sort of figure out what they have in common, but it's super clear that you got to start there. So next, you want to focus on your mission. And I think people have a really hard time. I'm like, what is my mission? You know, it's sort of similar to your vision and your goals, but it's really bigger than that. And I want you to think of your mission is an opportunity to think huge. It's a little grand. So let's say if you want to offer your services to 1 million people, great, write that down. My personal mission is to help every soul-based entrepreneur find their own unique voice so they can share their important message to the world. That really is my mission. I have, you know, looked at some of the unique tools I have, and they're really perfectly positioned to help people find their voice, and I love doing it, and that's my mission. And I have put out there every soul-based entrepreneur. So think big, let people know where you're going. It really helps them make some decisions on whether they want to work with you. So the third thing I say is understand your core values. So this is important, again, because these are things that you're going to share, you know, on your home, your website, in your message, in the way you speak with people. So what's important to you? You want to really understand. So things that are important to me are tenacity, passion, integrity. You know, when you work with me, you're going to get 100% of me. Those are the things that are super important to me. That's what I value. So when you know those things, those are the things that you're going to want to share. So how do you discover your core values? I am going to put up a core values worksheet just below this video after I'm done that you can just download and do this simple exercise and just make sure that I'm getting messages that people are having trouble getting onto Facebook, so I'll have to connect with them later. But make sure that when you complete this, you just sort of really keep those in mind so that next time you're talking to a prospective client and they ask you, well, what do you offer me? That you can remember what it is that you bring to the table really easily, and narrow it down to like 4 or 5 different core values so that you can have that, again, consistently appear in any of your messages. The next thing you're going to want to focus on, this is step 4, is what's your story? So every good entrepreneur out there has a story, and they have it memorized, and they know it, and they know how to share it. So one of my favorite ones is from Debbie Ford, who was an amazing author, life coach, mentor for me. But her story is so memorable. I mean, anybody who's read her books or worked with her can remember that moment where she's laying on the bathroom floor and she knows this is the time to change. She hears, the voice of God, or however you want to call it, as she would say, universe, whatever the words are, and knows that she's been given the solution and how to make her life different and how to make the lives of others different. Everybody remembers that story. You each have a story. My friend is saying, if you're on your computer, you need to click on the video link in the navigation bar. On a phone, I come right up. Well, thank you, Linda Yeasel, for sharing that. It's amazing how much I still am learning myself, and I love all of you out there who are sharing about Facebook Live. I mean, I know when I join how to do it, but when I'm in the middle of it, it's hard to juggle the 5 things. Story. So we don't want to make this our story, but story is all about, hi Kate, oh my god, good to see you, Kate, thanks for joining. So each one of us has a story, and our story is something that connects us to people. So somebody can really go, oh yeah, that's me. Or they can say, wow, she did that, I could do that. For me, my story is, how did I become a branding coach? I was a criminal lawyer. Well, for me, it's so natural at this point. I've told everybody else's story my whole life. As a criminal lawyer, my favorite days were sentencing days. I got to tell who the person really was so that they could be seen in a different light. And as I became a coach, that was part of also what I really loved, was helping people recognize their voice. And writing is my huge thing. It has been my whole life. So each one of us has a story. It's up to you to share it so that people can see, okay, this is why they're doing it, or so they can have the opportunity to connect. So I want you to take some time this week and really write down your story. Maybe there's one, maybe there's multiple, and how does it tie into your ideal client? What's so important for your ideal client to connect with? What do they need to see? And what is it that you have that serves them? So again, tie those back. Again, why that ideal client is so important. I know I keep saying it. The last thing is, what is your product or service? So how much time have you spent defining your product or service? A lot of us think we know what it is, but we don't spend a lot of time writing it down or really thinking about how we're going to talk about it. Michael Hyatt, hi Leona, I'm glad you found me. Mahalo from Hawaii, nice to see you. And Leona, feel free to replay this at the end and catch up on where we are. We're talking about some steps right now, and we're up to step 5 as to some of the things you can do to really hone in on your message. So I want you to focus on your product or service and really think about, what is it that I'm giving people? So one way that I make my clients think about it is, instead of calling it your product or service, think of it as an offering, because that really is what you're doing, is you're offering something to the public. So what is it? When you look at it that way, it really helps you frame it from a different perspective, and again, it helps you frame it from the perspective of your ideal client. What are they looking for in your product? And think of it in terms of problem solving. Hi Shar. Oh, hi Carlos, nice to see you. Ooh, from Mexico, I'm so excited to see you. So I want you to think of it in terms of problem solving. So when you're coming up with your offerings, what exactly are you solving for your client? Now, make it tangible. This is where so many of us soul-based entrepreneurs get in trouble, because we think of it in terms of the work we've done and what we understand of it. But sometimes that makes no sense to somebody who hasn't either gone into the type of work we do or used our product. So for example, if you've got a product that helps people lose weight, tell them or if you have a product that's going to help people feel good about who they are, let them know. Soul-based entrepreneurs tend to talk in some terms like inner wisdom, or loving oneself, or using your intuition or intention, or using your heart, not your head. Those things are all incredibly beautiful and important. The problem is they don't sell. So when you're talking about your product, you definitely want to look at what's going to be different in their life when they get out of bed. Are they going to be able to find healthy relationships, for example? Are they going to stop that inner dialogue that's constantly, that tape that beats themselves up all day long? Are they going to stop doubting themselves and really feel more comfortable with their decisions? Are they finally going to let go of that career that they hate and they complain about every day? Really think about what it is that you're offering and how their life is going to be different, and really make it tangible. I can't stress that enough. And make it fun too. If they're going to be able to be more fun-loving, or go and find some adventure, let them know that. So spend some time defining your offerings. And I say this one other thing about defining your offerings is use the benefit versus feature method. So when you're writing things down, and I talk a lot about this, I am finishing up a copy boot camp to teach people how to write. But when you have your product and you're writing about it, or your service, there are those boring details like you're going to be on the phone with me for an hour, or we meet at such and such location. Those are really great, but I want you to sort of sandwich them into those real benefits they're going to get. So in an hour-long conversation, you'll learn how to let go of limiting beliefs. Again, you want to mix them in between. So really start to think about your offerings of, okay, what do they need to know? They need to know cost, which you can or don't have to list on your website. They need to know how long this is going to take. They need to know what the exact steps are. But again, mix them in with what they're going to get out of it, so that people always remain engaged and really understand, if I do X, I'm going to get Y. So it's a really important part of brand messaging is, again, how you say it is a big difference, because you and I can have the same product, but only one's going to succeed if we actually set it up so that our ideal client understands it. And it isn't, and I know so many people are afraid, well, is that manipulating? It's not. It's really just putting it in a way that someone can understand it and really see why they're going to get a benefit out of it. So those are some simple steps you can do to get started. I just want to really quickly review them. Grab the Ideal Client worksheet if you haven't done it. It's again at the top of my Facebook page. There's a link to it. It sends you to download it. If you haven't gotten it, you can feel free to email me at linda@soulgeniusbranding.com. You want to understand your mission. Again, this is the really big thing that you want to do, and keep that somewhere nearby, because when somebody's asking you, you can say, this is my mission. This is who I want to help. The core values worksheet, I'm going to attach to this in a few minutes, so come back to the Facebook page if you want to grab your core values worksheet to download. I'm happy to pass that along so that you can really start to know what it is that you provide, because that is part of your brand. Then what's your story? Really spend some time figuring out your story, how many you have, what is it that's going to attract your ideal client, and what is it that makes them trust you or connect. Remember, a brand is really about trust. And then what's your product or service? Again, think of it as an offering and really talk to them, your ideal client, about what you're offering. So as always, I want to make sure that I'm offering you each a 30-minute free session. All you have to do is go to my website, soulgeniusbranding.com. Set up 30 minutes for free. I would be happy to walk through any one of these aspects with you. If you want to talk more about your ideal client, your values, or how all of this really incorporates, I'm really happy to sit down with you and have a chat. So I am going to make an effort to be here next Thursday again. We're going to talk about tools. So I have a whole set of tools that I provide my clients with so that they can create that picture, the website, the logos, all that for cheaper, and some of the pitfalls in going with some of the services out there. So we're going to talk about that next week. I look forward to seeing all of you. I'm so excited for everybody who showed up and anybody who's watching this. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week.